Hello, this is Scott Hansen with the Dell Enterprise Technology Center. In this demonstration, we will use the WSMAN interface to update the BIOS on a Dell PowerEdge R710. In this demonstration, we'll be using the WinRM command, Windows Remote Management command line feature that is available on Windows Server 2008 R2 or as an optional component on other Windows OSs. We also have several batch files which we have written that are available on the DellTechCenter.com website that will aid in the execution of the WinRM commands and make it easier for you. So in this demonstration, we will use a TFTP interface. So I have installed a TFTP server on a system in the lab, R7 Management. I've already downloaded the R710 BIOS updates. The WSMAN feature uses the Windows update files, so that's the update that's on the TFTP server. And we also have a remote console into our current R710, so you can see that it's running there. So the first thing we'll need to do is edit the update input BIOS XML file. You see that it simply points to our URL location for the TFTP server along with the file to download. So we'll use this XML file as input into our batch file mycmd updatebios.bat, which calls WinRM to invoke install from URI, and you see it has the dash file update input BIOS.xml that we just looked at, and we pass as a parameter the IP address of the DRAC on the R710. So when we execute this command against the IP address of the DRAC, this will set up a job that will download the BIOS executable file and return an instance ID, which is the job ID that we'll need later. If we look at our TFTP server on R7 Management, we'll see that it will begin to download that BIOS update file to the R710. So right now it's simply downloading and it's not executing the update. This is put into a job queue. So the file has been downloaded successfully. Now if we get all job.bat, this calls a WinRM command to look at the job queue so we can see the jobs that are queued up in the Lifecycle controller. So we see that the package has been successfully downloaded, and you notice that the job start time has time_NA, so it's actually not scheduled for execution. So we will go ahead and take the instance ID, we'll go ahead and copy that, and we'll use that as input to actually schedule the job. So we've copied that job ID, and now we'll edit the job input.xml file. So this specifies the job ID, so a job array, and a when to run it, run month, run day, and a start time interval. There's a special variable called time_now, which obviously means execute now. So we'll paste our job ID and save this file. And now we'll take a look at our so if we did want to schedule this job, we also have written a script that will get the time from the R710. So get time mono.bat, actually execute this against the DRAC. This will return the current time of the DRAC, and it is in the format of year, month, day, hour, minute, second. So this is the exact format that you would use in the previous XML file if you wanted to schedule an exact time, or if some of your jobs weren't executing, you might want to verify the time on the DRAC. So the set job batch file, which we've written, uses WinRM to invoke the setup job queue, which will read from the job input XML file and pass it the instance ID to actually schedule this job. So now we set the job, and we can do get all job.batch, another batch file that we've written, which will show the current job queue. So you see that the job start time changed from time NA to an actual number which represents now to the system. So the last thing we'll need to do is actually set a reboot job. So this is very similar. We have a reboot.batch which invokes create reboot job. It reads from the reboot.xml file, and there are 3 different job types for the reboot job. One is simply a power cycle, and there's 2 and 3 which will actually do a graceful shutdown, but in this instance we will just do a power cycle. So we'll execute the reboot to the DRAC address. Again, this will put a job in the queue which has an instance ID, which we will again need to schedule this reboot job. So if we look now at the job queue, we can see that the reboot job is successfully scheduled, or is set to a pending reboot, but it still has a job start time of time_NA. So we still need to schedule the reboot job. So we'll take this instance ID, and again we'll pass this to the job input.xml. So we'll change the job array to the ID for the reboot job, and we will keep the time now, and so we'll save that file and now do the set job and pass it the IP address of the DRAC on the R710. Now, since we set it time now, this will execute immediately. So let's go ahead and take a look at our remote interface, and we'll see that the system is currently rebooting. If we check the job queue, you can see that our reboot is complete. And you'll see that our BIOS update has been successfully scheduled. So now if we take a look at the system, we can watch it go through its reboot and execution of the BIOS update. So I've sped up the interface so we can watch it execute much faster. You'll see the first task where it will actually install the update. It will reboot and go through a second task to validate that the update was successful, in the off chance that we have a corrupt BIOS image. Some safety for that. And then the system reboots the third time with the updated BIOS. Now if we go back and check our job queue, we'll see that obviously the reboot was completed. That was the same one, and now we see the job ID for the BIOS update. The job finished successfully, and that completes the demonstration. There's many more commands you can run, and if you have any further questions, please visit us at delltechcenter.com. Thank you.